Hi all, welcome to another episode of Cybeers. This one's pretty special. We're talking about our annual state of cyber. We're going to be chatting about ransomware, business email compromise, penetration testing, managed services, and everything that we're seeing here at Triskele Labs across the last year. We've developed a pretty special report based on the annual state of cyber, which you can access at stateofcyber.com.au or through the Triskele Labs website. Now, of course, I can't talk about this myself, so I'm joined by Brad Morgan, Head of Managed Services. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Nick. Glad to be here.
Richard Grainger. Do you ever leave that seat?
No, I live here now.
Head of Digital Forensics, and who feels like he's becoming quite a regular guest, Mike Higo, Head of Penetration Testing.
2 for 2 so far. Thanks for having me back.
2 for 2. Now, Higo, you mentioned something on a prior episode, and that is hop water. So it's becoming a bit well known that I have been off the beers for a little while. Thanks for noticing the weight loss. And I'm staying to the non-alcoholic. So you finally brought me a hop water. You're going to have to explain this to those who haven't watched before.
Well, once again, just a really basic sparkling water. Chuck a bit of hops in right at the end like you would with a regular beer process and just let it mull for not long. We're talking like a day or two. Put it out, 0 calories whatsoever, quite fresh. These ones are actually quite different. They've got a bunch of nootropics in them.
Nootropics?
Yeah, we'll buzzword it in here. We'll now get hop water and nootropics in the future. I honestly haven't noticed any brain boost after having them, but you don't notice the brain loss because there's no alcohol either. So it's
Well, that's all right, because in front of me I've also got the Australian Sports Brewing Co. Electrolyte Enhanced 0 Plus Pale Ale. Now, Jack Rutherford isn't here at the moment. He's off actually doing some work. But he's gotten me onto these, so I'm going to see how your hop water goes. And
well, I got him onto those specific ones, the zeros.
did you really?
Yeah.
So is this a Higo special as well?
I'm just making this perpetual around the office. It's going to be a good stock.
Are you trying to tell us something about not drinking beer, mate?
I'm actually just trying to tell you that I own stocks in these hop water companies.
All right, well,
full disclosure for the camera, you know.
What have you got there?
I've decided to go for a Pirate Life South Coast Ultra Low. I think it's just also 0 alc for now. Realistically, just didn't want to be drinking today. It's a long week coming ahead of us still. So
yeah, you're not wrong. Rich, unlike us, you've got a full strength.
Yeah, gone the better beer.
You do love a better beer.
I do like the better beer. It's good stuff.
And then Brad, you had to bring a glass bottle in, didn't you?
I did, but Matso's isn't right out of anything else. So I've gone the West Australian Matso's ginger beer. It's an absolutely wonderful drink. It's only 0.9. So, it's not non-alcoholic, but it's not a full standard either. So I'm pretty happy.
It is definitely alcoholic.
Yes, it's definitely alcoholic.
All right, gentlemen, as always. Cheers.
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 Higo,
Hey.
that's a lot.
See, that's why they only leave it in for a day or two. If it was longer.
Yeah, mate, I might be changing down to that 0 in a
Do you
second.
want one of these?
Probably that doesn't taste like beer. That's, for anyone watching, hot water.
Doesn't
Not
taste
all
like beer,
Higo
just
cracked up to me.
Is it basically Shine with hops?
Nope.
No, it's worse.
Yep.
It's sparkling water with hops.
As Pete First would say, can someone pass the gin? Anyway, we're talking about State of Cyber, again, available at stateofcyber.com.au. Rich, I'm going to ask for yours first. What's an oh wow moment that you've got from the last 12 months? Something that you saw that was just so unbelievable that you couldn't even breathe into existence.
That's a tough one. So as you read the report, you're going to see there's a lot of trends that have continued that we were talking about last year.
Oh, I'm sorry, Higo. I really can't do that.
I think one of the things that really stood out to myself and probably a couple other members of the team was probably quite a, I'd say, advanced threat actor that we observed, ransomware group. Well, pre-ransomware, because we didn't actually get to the point of deploying ransomware in the environment, but did data exfiltration. And we actually saw them using, putting persistent on an ESXi hypervisor, which is...
What does that even mean? Why does it matter? Why do I care?
Well, because your hypervisors are pretty much your most important thing in your environment. They're going to be running your virtual machines. And with VMware ESXi in particular, you can't really install like third-party security product on there. So you can't put your CrowdStrikes, your Defenders, whatever you're using on there to actually get the telemetry on there. And we see VMware ESXi is a very popular product used by a lot of organizations. And we see a lot of the time threat actors do gain access to it and deploy ransomware and encrypt the virtual disks on these things. But this is the first time I've actually seen a threat actor be quite sneaky in terms of installing persistence mechanism on there. So essentially a tunnel to be able to get back into the environment. And that was one where like, wow, okay, because we analyze these all the time, and this is the first time we're actually seeing a fairly sophisticated technique.
Mate, I remember a number of times you've come in and gone, oh wow, this is actually really cool. Now, you guys admire threat actors sometimes.
I think it's you gotta respect the capabilities of some of them. A lot of them are very like some. I know we always, well, not we, but
Brad, do you respect threat actors? I don't know.
the term sophisticated gets thrown around a lot in cyber.
It does, yeah.
And for the majority of the time, it's really not. And then sometimes you do come across something, you're like, you know what? Actually, you've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, that was cool. Well done, guys. Like,
yeah.
Brad,
I was just going to say, it's weird. Like, are people using sophisticated to try and make themselves feel better?
Absolutely.
When they've left
100%.
holes in environments, like it just goes, I was a sophisticated actor. That's how they got in.
Yeah,
when really,
it
you
was,
didn't close the gate.
It was no multi-factor authentication on basic credentials.
Like
Yeah.
API key that's been
hard coded
available.
in something and it's on GitHub. Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to talk about vibe coding, are we?
I'll leave that for Higo.
Only if we can do vibe pen testing. Then,
I saw that the other day. Actually, someone was vibe coding and an API key was hard coded.
it was just hard coded because the API. I mean, the AI doesn't really know what to do with these API keys. It chucks it in once and it stays.
It makes
there.
it easier.
But we've seen vibe coding a lot where they say you come and click on our link and it points to 127.0.0.1 because they haven't made it leave their server yet. So that's the link that they're sending out to people.
Local host, thanks guys. What about you from a pen testing perspective? Is there anything that you've seen that you've gone, oh wow, either in a good way that it's something you haven't seen before, or oh wow, we saw that again?
I've seen something that was actually quite recent. There's a new CVE for reflective Kerberos relay style attacks, and this is interesting because basically if SMB signing is disabled, it doesn't actually necessarily need to be Kerberos only. Any NTLM relay works on this now, and it's basically like the new relay style of attack. We actually, I sent it to two of our testers when they were on site in the past 2 months, and they've immediately got the A from it in one single step. And
did the EDR or SIEM pick that up?
I haven't seen what they had on site yet because unfortunately the two pen tests that we were doing it through Elliot C2 that we've developed, so that we were bypassing
the secret C2 that we don't talk about.
It's not a secret yet, don't worry. It was a secret, and now it's a little bit out there, don't worry. But we've been deploying that on client sites for things where we need to bypass EDRs, and it's been
Has
working.
it been picked up yet?
Not yet.
Wow.
Are these my monitored clients? Like, are these SOC monitored clients, or are these clients that we're
Absolutely
not monitoring?
not, but no, they're not actually.
If you do it in one of our monitored environments, please tell me.
I will do.
I've suggested it a couple of times, and apparently it is coming.
It is.
Don't hold back,
something,
man. Don't
something
hold
that I'm
back.
looking into as well. But that's what shocked me really is that everybody seems to be moving into Entra, and everybody seemed to be wanting to leave behind the on-prem. We're never going to get rid of it realistically. No. But the fact that there's still these brand new style of attacks coming out on the latest, and I think it's all the way up to Server 2022 that's affected now for this. So it's not exactly old software anymore, old hardware. It's modern, and we've seen the same style of attacks, just in a very different technique, slightly different, still working really well. And
Look,
that's always
everyone wants to
shocking
be
me.
cloud native, right? And they want to be cloud native, but we still see Exchange boxes,
Absolute
AD boxes on
dinosaur.
dinosaur. NAS
machines.
backups. I think you saw another NAS backup yesterday, didn't you?
Oh, I see them on site all the time. They're one of the first things I target. So.
It was a NAS backup.
Please move your backups off NAS. Please, I beg you. And put them in a cloud that's MFA protected, but don't put the MFA code into your password safe. Anyhow. Brad, what was your oh wow moment for this year?
Mine's a little bit different. Mine's not as technical as the other guys. Mine is the pace that a threat actor can move at within an environment. So we all know commodity phishing is a big thing at the moment. We've seen attacks within 10 minutes of a user clicking a link to new authentication methods being added, new multi-factor being added, forwarding rules, and all of this sort of stuff being added to the point where we've seen new sites added in SharePoint within 10 minutes of a user entering credentials.
Scattered Spider's pretty good at doing that kind of stuff, right?
They are. And I mean, but the thing is, Scattered Spider's an APT, right, at the end of the day. But we've seen non-APT groups do it. Like what we would have called script kiddies 5 or 6 years ago are now able to go and buy access to platforms that will allow them to run session token theft and automate so much of this attack within the 365 suite. The barrier of entry is virtually non-existent.
The accessibility.
And that's the thing that has made me go, wow, because the team, a defensive team, have to be so on the ball at the moment to get ahead of these things and restrict users and stop that going any further.
Is it AI, ChatGPT, WormGPT, or is it platform as a service that gives them access to this? Is it an AI problem or is it an accessibility problem like Higo just said?
I think it's an accessibility problem. I think the platforms are out there selling this commodity phishing, and it is so good. The session token theft and all of that sort of thing in the back end is so good. And they've got playbooks so that as soon as someone clicks that link and gives up that session token, they're doing it, they're actioning hands-on objective, and they're just doing what they need to do. It is scary fast.
I got to sit with one of your team the other day, and they're doing a red team at the moment, and they showed me it wasn't like Evil Gen X2 is another platform for session token theft, and they showed me the login page that they were phishing people with, and it's legit login. Like,
yep, 100%.
I couldn't tell a difference. Your average user would not be able to tell a difference.
And I don't even believe we have an Evasion X2 Pro license yet. The Pro one is even more capable, and it's just insane how they've got all these rapid deployments set up and ready to go. I believe on their behalf, good for them. I'm sure there's ways around it, but you have to prove that you are a legitimate business.
Yes.
Pen testers in order to purchase this Pro license. So that's at least good. They're not just selling it to anybody.
All you have to do is register a fake
You can
business.
probably just spoof through that, but it's better than nothing. I'll give them
It's
that.
going to be the keys stolen, like with Cobalt Strike.
Yeah, let's not talk about Cobalt Strike.
Gents, I'm just going to take a moment to review this one. I'm sorry, Higo, I abandoned the hot water. I did try it. This is the Australian Sports Brewing Co. Enhanced Electrolyte Enhanced Pale Ale. It's actually made just down the road in Richmond, actually. So nice Aussie local, as the name would suggest, Australian Sports Brewing Co. I really enjoy this. It's a pale ale that tastes like a pale ale. So Higo, thanks for getting Rutherford onto these. And then Jack, wherever you may be, thanks for suggesting these. Fantastic. Non-alcoholic craft beer. So
1 out of 2, not bad. I'll take it.
Yeah, anyone who's looking for a non-alcoholic alternative that is not heaps normal, noting I do have a heaps normal on the table as well because I'm a sucker for the heaps normal. Very, very good. Rich, I'm going to come back to what we're talking about, stateofcyber.com.au.
Yes.
We've seen a 700% increase, the report suggests, in incidents.
Yeah.
Since FY21.
Correct.
We just talked about accessibility of platforms. Do you think that's what's causing it, or is there something else?
I think there's probably a couple of factors in that. So one is obviously the amount of incidents that we've been dealing with as a team. We've expanded significantly over the last 4 years.
How many did you do in the last financial year?
201.
201 incidents investigated in FY25.
Correct.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And I think...
And that's across ransomware, business email compromise.
So,
what kind of split are we looking at there?
So you can check the exact numbers at stateofcyber.com.au. But from memory...
That's stateofcyber.com.au.
stateofcyber.com.au. I think it was about 95 BEC incidents. And then I think it's 63 ransomware. And then the rest are just basically we categorize them as other because it's like insider threat,
stolen backup tapes,
stolen backup tapes, physical tapes, all sorts of weird and wonderful incidents that we get to deal with.
And Brad, I guess this comes back to what you were saying about the MDR team. We've got 10 minutes to respond to some of these things. I know that your team have stopped business email compromise at 3:26 in the morning. One of our teams specifically found a triaged business email compromise, gone into the client, called them repetitively, and it was a legitimate business email compromise. Are you seeing more of those kinds of things, or was that just a standout?
No, we are. Like, if we cast our minds back to 2021, response organisations trusting an organisation such as us to reach in and perform response was unthought of. So for us now, we have the capability to reach in and take preventive action when we see this. And the guys are able to, within 10 minutes, identify and restrict access when these sorts of things are occurring. And in this instance, 100% correct, we did call the client because we didn't have the authority to restrict that account. So whereas
But we did it anyway. Well, we didn't
it.
restrict the account, but we just went, we're going to call the client and call and call and call. I think it was the third call?
Yeah,
that
it was
they
the
answered?
third call the client finally picked up. Obviously, do not disturb runs of a night. So, first call goes to do not disturb, second call rings, third call wakes him up. So he's answered, he's gone, yes, that's not legitimate, please suspend the account. There's
You
other
wouldn't think
times.
it's 3:26 in the morning there'd be much legitimate activity, would you?
Well, I mean, the other side of the planet's online, right? So many organizations are working remotely now. You can have authentication internationally at these unusual times. If you leave Melbourne at a certain time in day and you land in London, there's a chance that you might be logging in from that country legitimately.
I've said it on Cybeers multiple times. The SOC is always contacting me while I'm in the air flying, particularly to Dubai and then Dubai to London. Rich, I think you faced this as well. Do we get pinged by the SOC because we're on the plane's Wi-Fi?
Yep.
And we're not connecting from anywhere that we should be.
Yep.
So you can see a lot of those, right?
Yeah, we do. So, and that's that's a normal case. So we do have clients tell us, hey, someone's traveling. But if we go and look up that list and go, okay, yes, this user's out of the country, but they're not supposed to be logging in from Eastern Europe somewhere, or they're not meant to be logging in from Southeast Asia, they're in the US, we're going to go and pull that, take that action and restrict that access and lock out their access, reset their MFA, and wait for them to deal with their organisation to get the approval to
Not
reactivate.
change their MFA token or the device that they're using. 'Cause
Definitely not.
that might allow for a breach.
Just a little bit. So we block all access, we suspend the user, and we revoke all MFA. So we do not add the option for MFA back in until the organisation has actually approved that to happen.
Here you go. Finance, healthcare. As per stateofcyber.com.au, they're again the two most targeted sectors.
Yep.
Are they soft underbellies from your perspective as a pen tester? You get to go in and see these environments. Like, why healthcare and finance?
I think finance, the obvious one, there is a lot behind it. There is a lot to gain from targeting finance.
Do people think that, do the attackers think you're actually going to get access to the money? Or?
A lot of them do, and I strongly believe this. I strongly believe that they think they're going to get access to internal somehow and potentially gain access to that. Or the bigger thing, they're going to ransom them and they potentially have more money to pay out. That's what they're seeing in the finance side of things. I think it's the opposite with healthcare, funnily enough, and I think that threat actors know this. It's one of the most underfunded fields, unfortunately. And when we come to underfunded, even in a well-funded field, security sometimes gets left by the wayside, pushed to last. In a very underfunded field, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be way down a list. And when you have one very knackered IT guy who's trying to do everything and he's underfunded and he's undersleeping, it makes it an easy target. And I think that's why those two are still going to be the top.
Yeah, look, and we see it in healthcare all the time, but it's unfortunate that healthcare, when we look at the CIA triad, availability is the most important thing. You're literally dealing with people's lives.
I know that there are some ransomware groups who believe, who have these sort of inside notes that we shouldn't really be going after this sort of thing, but you still see it all the time.
Well, there was one that claimed they did, and they went and hit United Healthcare. So
you can make claims all you like, but
well, that's threat actors, right? They're criminals at the end of the day.
it is. We have seen some really good growth in number of actual tests we've done there. But the funny thing is we've actually seen fewer and fewer high and critical findings. So that's one nice thing that we're seeing there. But that does mean, unfortunately, that they're still getting in through the same menial methods that we've been seeing for the last 5 to 10 years. We're seeing less criticals, we're seeing less highs, but they're still getting in. So those really aren't, the be all and end all.
It's the basic hygiene things. I'm not going to say it again. Backups.
Take your mediums more seriously.
Take your
mediums can be
mediums.
chained really, really well.
Yeah.
Chain vulnerabilities are really big right now. Just take them more seriously.
It's not just the vulnerabilities, is it, Brad?
No.
It's the alerts as well. You've got to look at lows and mediums. You can't just focus on the criticals and highs.
You do. You have to look at everything. I mean, there is a temptation, and I know there's a lot of organisations out there who don't look at their low alerts, but they tell a story. They are your hygiene level intelligence that will tell you what you need to go and fix in your environment. They're the things that are going to flag misconfigurations, people doing things in the environment that maybe you don't realize they're doing or they're not intended to be doing, but they're having an effect. So if people are actually paying attention to that and helping that drive some change, when those critical things happen, there's less to go and fix, and it's easier to get to that root cause and stop the incident from occurring.
Rich, if a receptionist machine, for instance, is being accessed by someone that shouldn't be, it's probably going to flag as a low or a medium, but that's one of your first precursors that someone's in the environment and then they might go and start scanning for lateral movement.
Yeah.
So from your perspective as a digital forensics investigator, what do you think about those lows and mediums?
I think, like they definitely should be being considered as part of the bigger picture. I mean, we've had, and you know exactly what I'm talking about here in terms of responses where we go and the organization has an EDR, you know, even top of the line EDR tools, but they don't have anyone monitoring it. And there's been alerts firing for 6 weeks and because no one's looking at it.
Oh, PTSD.
Yeah, like I think, they definitely need to be looked at. I think organizations need to focus more on monitoring these platforms. If you have the capability in-house to do it, that's great. If you actually have the capability, that's not 9 to 5, because we've spoken about this probably on every Cybeers. It's like threat actors are working
Pretty
while
sure
we're
it's every
asleep.
Cybeers we talk about this.
This is all the activity we see, 99.9% of the time, it's happening when we're asleep. So
The thing is, it's not like your modern EDR tool is the old antivirus tool. They're not lighting up like a Christmas tree.
yeah.
The only time they light up like a Christmas tree is when something bad is happening.
Yeah.
They are
You are being ransomware right now.
Exactly. That they are so good at filtering out the false positives to the point where we had a client recently ask the question why employee time tracking software is not triggering alerts in their EDR. And I had to explain to one of our engineers that it is because it is a legitimate commercial software tool and the EDR vendor has been able to tune that out. It's the whole point of the EDR platform.
Why would a time tracking piece of software flag EDR?
Because the client saw it as a keylogger, right? Because it is tracking keystrokes, it's tracking mouse movements. They go, but it's malicious. I'm like, no, it's not. It is a commercial tool that can be used for a malicious purpose. But CrowdStrike, Microsoft, SentinelOne, all of these organizations identify the hash of the legitimate vendor, and they have mechanisms under the hood to make sure that us as defenders are not having to deal with that noise.
Yeah.
Right? They're making sure that people who deploy an EDR tool have confidence that when that tool is in place, it is not going to go and trigger a high amount of false positives. If you've got EDR and it's firing, listen to it.
Higo, I'm gonna throw it to you. It was this financial year, CrowdStrike Black Friday. I believe that was FY25. It was July.
It was
Indeed,
July,
it was
yeah.
just before my arrival here. Yeah.
Wow. How time flies when you're in cyber. There's been talk that's come up again of Microsoft removing access to the kernel for
Yes,
security
I read about
tools.
this recently.
If we look at what Brad's just said around those kinds of things, how is that going to impact these EDRs? Is it then forcing clients to have to go down the defender path?
I don't think it's going to force them. I think it's going to give the option, but I think there's going to be less capability for them to run in unison like they do nowadays. I think it's going to be more one or the other. I don't think they're going to force it, but I do think it gives them more unilateral control, for example, on your higher end E3, E5 licensing, where they really want to have that deep solo control over that rig. I think that's what it's going to enforce.
Okay, all right. Just a side topic there. Opening this one up, team, do we think there's any sectors that are underprepared or under-resourced in particular from a cyber perspective? Is there any one industry we can pick on, or is it more a organization size perspective? What are we seeing out there?
It's tricky.
I think, healthcare is top of the charts again for us again this year in terms of default responses. I think, like we've spoken about it, there's definitely budget constraints for those organizations, but not only that is the equipment that they're using, like downtime's a real big thing. So we've come into healthcare environments and they're running Server 2003, and we're like,
Love a bit of Server 2K3.
okay, well that's definitely not going to run any of our tools.
Higo loves Server 2K3.
I mean, it
more.
depends what service pack you're running, you know?
I mean,
Surely you're reaching security by obscurity at that point, right? Like,
No, that's 2000.
oh,
yeah.
sorry, 2000. That's
yeah. I mean, the Threat can't do anything on these ones as well.
Just run legacy tech. The
Yeah.
threat actor
The
won't do
threat
anything.
actors are too young. They haven't had to deal with it before.
They don't have the scars that we want.
But like, so I mean, even though they're in use, and you can argue whether them still being used is there's a valid business reason for it, but their organizations aren't taking adequate steps to mitigate the risks associated with that. It's still on the same network as everything else. It's still domain joined. It's not being, segmented off into its own secure VLAN as well.
I'm going to chuck one out there that I think is a sector that is so underprepared that scares me. OT.
That's what I was going to bring up.
That's what I was going to say.
The soft underbelly
I was
of
humming
this
and
country.
hawing about bringing up OT and hardware. I think specifically for companies, large government-style infrastructure companies, we're seeing more OT and hardware in there. And we've had some recently, for example, where we've seen the level of significance, or like not significance, what would the word I'm looking for? They are just really well put together, really well structured. And we don't actually have the capabilities at the time. We didn't have the capability to say yes to this client. We said to them, we think that we'd probably not be providing any value for us testing this, because we would get our hands on it and start learning it. And by the time the testing is done, we'd probably only be scratching the surface, and you're not going to get what you need out of it. So we recommend you go to like a more vendor-specific one. And it really highlighted for us that in our team, we need to upskill on the OT and the hardware side of things, and that's a big priority for us right now.
Well, it's tough as well, because we went out and looked for an OT offensive course.
And they're rare.
There was one
Yeah.
from Sands, looked fantastic until you clicked book now. Come back to us once we've found an instructor.
We literally don't have an instructor for it yet.
Yeah,
Which they now do.
They do
luckily,
now.
thank goodness.
One of the guys is going on that training.
Yes.
But we looked, but the other ones you look through the courses, it's mainly just pen testing.
It's not
OT specific
at all. No.
So I think we've got a big problem there around, as you say, capability, but also organisations understanding the level of risk and willing to invest into cyber. And SOC is meant to be changing this. And I say a lot that I think the government's trying to use SOC to enforce cybersecurity controls and create regulation, because then if you are SOC adjacent or want to work with SOC enforced organisations, you'll have to be SOC compliant yourself.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So the country doesn't have regulation. We've got such poor regulation for cyber that I see that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I agree on OT. I asked a client recently, and they have a very large OT environment. Who manages all of your OT infrastructure? He turned around and said to me, the facilities contractor.
Oh, facilities. We love that answer. We've heard that one before, Rich.
oh boy.
Why on earth are your cooks and cleaners managing your OT environment in your buildings, on your work sites? That scares me to no end.
If you're in cyber, it should scare you.
Yeah.
And that's not just in mine size, that's big facilities. It is really, really frightening. So I think you're 100% there. And the other thing that we saw at the top end within the SOC side of things is finance. I know you've said a few things there, but finance, but really it comes down to anyone with a person, right?
Yeah.
The top alerts we've seen in the last 12 months have been around authentication, access into environments.
It's the same for me.
If you employ people, you're at risk.
Yeah.
Right? You need to take those controls.
I mean, I've been doing my own testing recently. I've been on site, and the first thing I did was start looking for authentication controls, and it was my first way in. And it's going to come back to exactly what we were talking about earlier, where we were talking about how you need to look at these lows and mediums with a little bit more seriousness, because the way they chain together. You look, for example, at a new device for your machine account quota, a new device being added to the domain. Doesn't sound like a big deal. It's pretty standard functionality. You should restrict it. Most people don't. But even if it's slightly restricted, I can very likely find an account that hasn't met that quota and create my own VM and join my VM to this domain. Once I've joined, I've got a playground that has no EDR solutions on it. It's got nothing. I've even used that in the past where I've had a machine account reach out to my VM to start provisioning, and I captured the NTLM hash from the provisioning way. So I elevated to domain admin simply by joining this machine, and everything else was done for me. That's a medium. We rate it as a medium because we have to rate findings in isolation. But now isolation comes in where people see this as only a medium and they don't really want to fix it because, it's an acceptable or a mitigatable risk. And I disagree with that. I think you really need to try and tell a really good story in your pen test reports. This was only a medium, but it was crucial or integral to how we actually got in.
Higo, I like the fact that you are of the belief that most organisations are monitoring their OT environments. The amount of terminals...
Or their regular environments.
Well, yeah, their regular environments too. The amount of terminals we've walked up to, Rich, during ransomware, which includes an OT environment, just gone,
Yeah.
I reckon that's either going to be blank or password 1 with a capital P. That's going to make a difference. Or it's the same username and password, which is the vendor of the hardware.
Yeah.
OT is going to be a big issue for this country in the next 12 months. 100%. I'll go on record and say that there will be a large breach. Rich, stateofcyber.com.au
Yes.
says that 60% of your breaches that you've investigated in FY25 were through RDP or VPN without multi-factor authentication. I'm surprised this number has come down from what was 92% at some time through the year.
Yeah.
How is it 2025 and we are still here investigating breaches where there is no MFA on VPN, M365?
Yeah.
Why do we have RDP published outside to the world? I am done to death with talking about this on Cybeers.
I honestly, I don't know the answer anymore.
Is there an answer, or is it just literally watch the world burn?
I think it's just, honestly, it's just lack of knowledge. Like organizations are setting up, MSPs are setting up, and they just will change the port that RDP is
security by
advertised
obscurity,
on.
love that.
Yeah, it's like that's not going to do anything. It's still a huge problem, and honestly, that number might have been higher. But we do have a number of engagements where we haven't been able to identify the initial access vector. Most of the time that's because the environment's been either fully encrypted or wiped before we're engaged, or logs, just the retention periods.
If the logs don't exist, it never happened.
Could have been even higher. We did see an increase as well in exploited vulnerabilities. So again, organizations not taking patching seriously, particularly in internet-facing systems. Believe it or not, we've had at least one that I can remember off the top of my head, proxy shells exploitation in 2025. This is an August 2011 vulnerability that we're still seeing.
If anyone could see all four of us right now, we're all just sitting here, absolute facepalm, head in hand, shaking our heads.
I remember with that engagement, they also had RDP exposed and SSL VPNs. So we're like,
trifecta.
What's it going to be? And it would turn out to be proxy shells.
Is it a fault of the MSPs that they're not patching? Do you think they're telling clients that they need to remove these things and they're not paying attention? Is the client just not understanding, not wanting to spend the money?
It's a combination of all of them. So, I mean, we work with some MSPs and we're like, run through the findings. And they're like, we've been telling their client for 3 years that we need to migrate this. And they're like, no, we paid for this Exchange license. We're going to use it until we can't.
Thanks, Microsoft, for those perpetual licenses.
Yeah. But there is definitely organizations that just lack the awareness and internal capabilities to patch these things and and even understand what vulnerabilities are out there.
I've also noticed something that goes across with that recently, and I think I'm noticing it from the pen test side. You must know it from your end, but it's the lack of asset visibility, the lack of awareness that they have to the assets that they hold.
I was okay. Did you guys know external attack surface management has apparently reached the plateau of I can't remember what Gartner calls it. It's reached obsolescence before plateau. So they're now calling external attack surface management obsolete already.
That's insane.
Wow. And there's security vendors that have gone all in on it.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Check out the latest Gartner hype.
It kind of makes sense. It felt overhyped because if you know what assets you have and you know what external IP addresses they have and you can track that.
How many mature organizations do though?
No one knows
and that's the problem. There's very limited tools out there that will help you achieve this.
So how are we calling that plateau already an obsolescence?
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I completely disagree with it. I think it's still a very valid control and a very valid tool.
I think it should be the most valid one because you could have 9 of 10 of the most secure servers in the world, but if you don't know that 10 out of 10 exists and that's the way in, That's
Yeah.
a really good way in.
100%.
Yep.
That's the best way in. So
Yep.
I still think that you can't call that plateau. That is crucial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Brad, if you could go out to all of our 100 plus NDR clients, or let's call it every organization in Australia, and recommend one security control, what would it be?
Asset discovery. Like, you need to know what you have. That should be the foundation.
There's a reason CPS 234 has it as the number one step, right?
Exactly. It is the foundation. I can't tell you that we are monitoring your entire organization if you can't tell me where your assets are and what is in the environment. It is critical.
All right, Grainger. Ransomware payments dropped considerably in FY25. I believe it was about 6% of cases,
Yeah.
compared with around 13%
Correct.
in FY24. There was recently just implementation of mandatory ransomware payment notifications to the government. Do you think that had an impact on those stats going down, or was it something else?
No, 'cause I think that kind of occurred quite recently, and I think so. There's 3 payments that we observed in the engagements we were involved with, so it's really small number compared to what we saw last year. And I think the main contributing factors is the organisation stuck in a position where they pay to get a decryption tool, or they go out of business because they can't get their data, and that's led to that decision to pay the ransom. There was like one occasion where the data was just so sensitive that they're like, you know what, we will do whatever we can to prevent this from being published. So I don't think the mandatory reporting is playing a big factor in that yet.
Not yet. Do you think we'll see that change this year?
Yeah, and we did. I think so. Yeah, some people might be a bit worried about it. We did actually have some cases where the organisation probably should have paid, to be honest, but they couldn't.
Not that we advocate paying ransoms.
Yeah, but they were in such a situation that it should have been a genuine consideration. It was, but the reason that they couldn't is because there were sanctions against the group.
Good old sanctions.
Yeah. So essentially,
So we're starting to see more of an impact of the sanctions now that were put on the Medibank threat actor group
Lockbit
on Lockbit.
was a big one.
Yeah.
Um,
So we actually saw direct impact of
Yeah.
Lockbit being on sanctions list.
Yep.
Organisations wanted to pay, but
Yeah.
literally would be breaking the law and go to
Exactly.
jail, go directly to
Yep.
jail if they paid the ransom.
yeah.
So those stats could have been higher. So it's not necessarily the attacks are up.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they just genuinely couldn't.
And we've had some cases as well where the organisation's they've got the ransom amount over here, and then they've done an internal sort of investigation to be like, all right, well, threat actor's asking for $250,000. It's going to cost us $200,000 to bring in people to rebuild this data from other data sources. We would rather pay the $200,000 than continue the cycle and pay the threat actor. So we've actually seen that happen on a couple of occasions as well.
At the end of the day, a ransom payment is funding terrorism around the world. We've said it on Cybeers before.
Yeah.
It's not like the threat actors are just taking it, keeping it going, and everyone's buying a Lambo.
Yeah.
That's straight back into the system.
It all just funds the ongoing side of things.
Yeah.
Brad, business email compromise. We are seeing more advanced techniques, OneNote phishing, persistence. These really things that the threat actors are going after, not just fraud redirection. Why? Well, is it to then keep access, what Rich likes to call 4D chess, where business email compromise turns into ransomware, or is it something else?
It's a great initial access vector. There are so many jumping off points because, as you know, Richard's 4D chess analogy goes, you can have multiple people looking at different avenues once they're in the environment. You can start looking at injecting into email chains for financial reasons. You can then start investigating if they can gain higher level access within the organization, pivoting into call centers. If we think about Scattered Spider, trying to go into call centers and breach organizations internally that way by building trust. It's then leveraging trusted third parties for financial gains, trying to implement themselves into transactions, but then trying to pivot onto the actual physical environment. So there's multiple ways to go around that. I still firmly believe that the people are that key function. I know that Higo, for you, it is vulnerability and chaining them together, but it still comes down to access control.
I think
people.
it comes down to those two, but the initial thing was still the people. at any given time, a person is going to be a weak point in your environment. And all it takes is that one person. Unfortunately, if I get initial access, I think a lot of the clients these days, they still like to do the external is good, our cloud is good, therefore we should be safe. But they're not accounting for that one single thing getting through to the internal, and our internal controls are really not in place. And that's where the bread and butter sits. So, I go on site and I'll do an assume breach scenario with clients, and they'll come back to us at the end and say, we're glad you found all this, but it only happened because you got a set of credentials from us. And I said, yes, but sooner or later, somebody is going to get
broker's just going to sell you a set of creds.
Somebody is going to get a set of credentials. It's a question of when, not maybe.
Yep.
And that's the problem if you're not prepared for it. So 100%. This is why we do the assume breach scenarios, though, because sometimes an internal without creds is not going to give you the results that you want.
I completely disagree with simulated phishing as well. I've said it on Cybeers before. I'll say it again. I think it's one of the worst testing controls an organisation can possibly put in place, because their KPI is less than 2% of people gave away their password. It should be zero.
It should be zero.
And people are going to click on that. They're going to put their creds in. So should be investing into defense mechanisms rather than testing. Is someone going to fall for it? Yes, someone is going to fall for it. Worm GPT is so powerful, pretty easy to fall for.
100%. And maybe if I revise my answer around asset discovery, if I could do one thing.
Oh, here we go.
It's still asset discovery, but only allow authentication from devices if you are a Microsoft shop that are Entra managed and compliant.
Yes.
Because that is going to stop it. They have to be hands-on keyboard.
Do you think traditional defense mechanisms are keeping up for those things? Like Higo said that get a set of credentials. We're still seeing these breaches. Rich is still doing investigations with no MFA. Are we doing enough?
I don't think so. And again, I think it comes back to is it a lack of understanding at the MSP level? Is it a lack of understanding at the organisational level where MFA isn't enough? I've said it. I think I've said it in Teal Blue. I know I've said it in Teal Blue. I've said it here before as well. MFA is just not enough anymore. You need multiple levels. You need conditional access control. You need to make sure you've got devices registered, all of these sorts of things. Know where your employees are based and only allow them to authenticate from those countries where they are meant to be. To me, that is what traditional should be right now, because it won't be fit in 12 months' time.
So what's separating? So our MDR service is detecting critical alerts within 8 minutes. What separates that and tying everything you've just said together to separate a well-performing MDR service from one that's maybe not identifying all those level of threats and in that meantime to detect?
So I think it's the alert fidelity is a big part of it, is having high fidelity, high confidence alerts coming through to a well-equipped team. To be able to do that, there is so much underlying technology behind that. Yes, it is working with the organisations to deploy SIEM. Anyone can go and deploy a SIEM. There's countless numbers of them that are available as a commercial solution.
If you don't have the cyber threat intelligence from digital forensics and the real world stuff that happened at 8 o'clock this morning.
Exactly. So, and that's where, part of our process is to get all of the CTI from DEFA. We get it from ASD, we get it from other places. It's all processed, passed to our various SIEM solutions where it fires alerts, but then we're also looking at any alerts that come into our case management system through that same intelligence again to further enrich, go out and tie it to other cases. We recently had a phishing campaign targeting several financial institutions, and the guys were able to tie that campaign to 3 different organisations because it was targeting multiple institutions at once because of the way we leverage our threat intel.
Yeah, I remember that came out of the Perth SOC. I was actually over in Perth at the time, and the Perth team picked that one up.
Yeah, so to me, that's the key for a high-performing SOC.
Look, gents, we're almost out of time here. We're going to be sitting here at the end of FY26, and we're going to do another Cybeers, develop another stateofcyber.com.au, and I'm going to ask for your crystal ball predictions right now. Here you go. What are we going to be talking about for stateofcyber.com.au FY26?
I think it's going to be 85% the same. 85%. Well, we're going to take an over-under, but no, my estimate is that they're going to be the same sort of verticals that are near the top.
Are we all still going to be in cyber, or are we all just going to get to a point we finally flame out?
I mean, Vibe Cyber maybe.
Vibe Cyber. It can't be worse than your hot water. Richard, give me a crystal ball prediction for stateofcyber.com.au FY26.
I'd love to say that RDP and SSL VPN without MFA is not going to be the top vector. But
It won't be number one, but it'll still be top three.
I'd love to say that it's not the top, but I think it will be. I think one of the things that we talk about in this year's report is the ability to track back initial access, not only to like SSL VPN or ID gateway with no MFA, but also one step further to like information stealers have been running on contractor's machine or a BYOD machine or something like that. So
that'd never happen.
yeah, so that's another thing that I expect we'll be talking more about as well, because the success of information stealers been getting username and password, jumping into a Citrix gateway or ID gateway with no MFA, and sort of running havoc.
Brad, the lucky last, you know my question. What's your crystal ball for stateofcyber.com.au FY26?
If I look at MDR in isolation, I think it's going to still be the top alerts we're seeing now as per what we've said this year. It is going to be anything around authentication into the environment. It is still going to be the number one mechanism that we're seeing. Unfortunately, we are going to see higher and higher rates of complex phishing attacks, resulting in more and more session token theft and other attack mechanisms that causing compromises in organizations.
So identity access management is going to be key for mid-size and the mid-size enterprise, which they're just not considering at the moment. And we saw the breaches happen, Optus Latitude, Medibank. We know Medibank came through through a lack of identity access management. So I really hope we see an adoption of identity access management solutions at the SME level.
So do I.
Can I pull a Brad and do a quick curveball on my answer as well here?
Sure.
And I'd like to say that one thing that I'm really, really wary about and skeptical of what's happening, and we're seeing it more and more. I've seen multiple blogs for this research that's coming out. The roll your own AI in-house, data warehousing and ingestion.
Oh boy.
And I'm seeing that people are even being popped by their own really
AI.
popular AIs, Copilots, ChatGPT. They've just rolled out their integrations between your SharePoints, between your HubSpots, between everything that you store your data in. Sounds great. Please really vet everything that you do with this AI. And a roll your own has the potential to be safer, but it also has the potential to be much worse. So I predict that at the end of this financial year, we are going to see a lot more AI involvement in terms of people rolling their own, and that being used as the pivotal compromise point.
I really don't like talking to you sometimes.
The funny thing is, I said this to you earlier, that we are going to see data leak due to AI misconfigurations, poor rollouts of AI. I didn't want to mention it here, but
you have.
We have. Yeah. It is a risk, right? It is scary, and people don't understand the controls that you need to wrap around AI. Like the reason you engage a cybersecurity company to do your security is to make sure it's done properly. If you're going to roll your own AI, get someone to come and vet it, make sure it's secure.
Look, I'm gonna close it out with, I expect that we're going to see at least one significant OT breach this financial year. At least one. I really hope that it's not going to be life-threatening. We've seen it happen up in the US. I really hope that Australia starts to take things a bit more seriously. What a way to end. Guys, you would have noticed I finished my Australian sports beer. So I'm not one to leave a good beer behind.
Look who's come crawling back.
It's a good beer, though.
But is it good beer?
It's not even beer.
It's not exactly.
It's just sparkling water with hops in it. So, gents, I'm going to say thank you very much. Really appreciate your insights for stateofcyber.com.au. And as always, look forward to the next Cybeers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.